Good evening and welcome to Scotland at 7. I'm Nena Bardwaj. The Scottish Government has welcomed an Audit Scotland report into child and adolescents' mental health services. The report said the service was under significant pressure due to the number of young people being referred to it and a step change was needed. Mental Health Minister Claire Hoffey said the government was taking steps to address the issue. £100 million was targeted to support young people's mental health in this year's programme for government. This would include counsellors in all secondary schools and 18 new counsellors in universities and colleges, providing training for teachers and fast-tracking children with serious conditions. We have a short clip of Auditor General for Scotland, Caroline Gardner, for you now.
What have you found in this report?
We found that the mental health services that children and young people rely on are complex and fragmented, and that makes it harder for them to get the support that they need. A couple of signs of a system that's really under pressure. The number of referrals to acute services has gone up by 22% over the last 5 years, and the number of rejected referrals has also gone up. People are also having to wait longer for the support that they need. More than a quarter of children and young people are waiting more than 18 weeks to get treatment once they've been referred. All of that means that we think there needs to be a step change in the availability of services to help children and young people when they really need it.
And a step change, what does that mean for the public sector in practice? What needs to happen now?
Well, there's no one agency that can make this work. We think the Scottish Government, health boards, councils and their partners in the voluntary sector need to work together. 3 things I think are needed. First of all is a much clearer view of what works for children and young people. Secondly, a plan to make the changes that are required. And thirdly, a move away from relying on short-term isolated initiatives. A really good first step would be understanding how children and young people access mental health services just now and what difference those services are making to their lives.
Thank you.
The latest batch of no-deal Brexit papers have been published today, outlining preparations for leaving the European Union without a withdrawal agreement. The papers state that in the event of a no-deal Brexit, vehicles made in the UK could no longer be sold in the EU, UK nationals whose passports have less than 6 months to run could be refused entry to EU countries, that there is no guarantee that UK driving licences would be recognised, and that surcharge-free roaming would still be available. Best for Britain issued a statement saying that this was just another cost and more bureaucracy Brits will have to go through. Responding, Constitutional Relations Secretary Michael Russell said the high price Scottish consumers and businesses will have to pay for Brexit becomes clearer with every passing day. Although the Scottish Government is doing everything within its power to protect Scotland as best we can, these technical notices make plain the crippling costs and needless red tape that a no-deal scenario will bring. Profits at the John Lewis Partnership have fallen to almost zero for the first half of this year. The news comes as Dominic Raab has accused struggling businesses of blaming Brexit for difficulties. The SNP condemned these remarks as flippant. SNP MP Stephen Gethins, and spokesperson for International Affairs in Europe, said, "This is yet another example of the Tories trying to make excuses for the Brexit mess of their own making." And Bank of England Governor Mark Carney has announced interest rates are to remain at 0.75%, but added that there will likely be gradual increases in the future. An anti-Kremlin activist was rushed to hospital with some believing that he has been poisoned. Pyotr Verzilov joined band Pussy Riot in a pitch invasion during this summer's World Cup final in Moscow, and the band members believe he may have been poisoned. News sources have said it is difficult to say what caused his illness at this time. The Russians believed to have poisoned Sergei and Yulia Skripal have said they were in the country for tourism at the time. Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Boshirov said on Russian state-funded TV channel RT that they had been in Salisbury for less than an hour but had left due to bad weather. It is believed they are Russian intelligence officers acting on orders from high in the Kremlin. Myanmar government leader Aung San Suu Kyi has said the arrest of 2 journalists currently being held for breaking the Official Secrets Act has nothing to do with the freedom of expression. She said they are free to appeal against their 7-year sentences in her first public comment since the 2 were arrested. The reporters Wa Lone and Kyo So-u pleaded not guilty to the charges. At the time, they were investigating the killings of 10 Rohingya people by the Myanmar security services. A national task force has been launched with the aim of helping Scotland become carbon neutral. The Just Transition Commission, a commitment under the Programme for Government, will look at how to maximise opportunities of decarbonisation in terms of fair work and tackling inequalities, while delivering a sustainable and inclusive labour market. Environment Secretary Rosanna Cunningham announced the Just Transition Commission was to be chaired by Professor Jim Skia, who said he was flattered by the appointment. More details on the Commission are due later this year. NHS Scotland has invited over 1,000 women over 71 to a final breast screening appointment. The appointments come after a review of the Scottish Breast Screening Forum found the women had not been invited over the last 3 years. They were meant to have had their final screening by the time they had turned 70. However, delays within the programme meant that they were unable to. Screening centres have now said that they will see the women as soon as possible and it will not affect any other appointments. 51-year-old Jagtar Singh has been convicted of the murder of 38-year-old Ansar Shah in October 1993. He was charged in the High Court in Glasgow today, almost 25 years after the murder occurred. Singh had fled England and set up a new life in France before being arrested in Germany in November last year on a European arrest warrant and brought back to Scotland. Police are appealing for information after a blaze ripped through Hilltown Indoor Market in Dundee last night, leaving the building heavily damaged. Over 60 firefighters attended the fire which began on the roof of the building. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service said no one has been injured. It is the second major fire in the city after one hit the Braveview Academy on Tuesday night. Police Scotland are appealing for information and members of the public can call 101 or Crime Stoppers Scotland if they wish to remain anonymous. The Eurovision Song Contest will be held in Tel Aviv next year. This follows Israeli singer Netta Barzilai winning this year's competition with her song Toy. The Israeli government wanted to hold the competition in Jerusalem but dropped the demand following a backlash against the US recognition of the city as its capital and subsequent fear of boycotts. The SNP has announced that it is planning a day of action where they will aim to meet with 50,000 people from across Scotland. On Saturday 29 September, the focus will be on the threat of Brexit and the opportunities of independence. The party's 99 parliamentarians will be tasked with leading members from the 289 SNP local branches in Scotland to engage with people in every corner of the country. That's all for tonight. Thank you so much for watching and we will see you next time. Good evening.